Hello everybody, and welcome to the expert course from Scriptcase. My name is Carlos, and I'm your instructor for this course. This is the expert course from Scriptcase, an updated version of course. We're going to see Scriptcase 9 in this course. Basically, what are we going to do in this course? I'm going to create the appointments project with you guys from scratch, basically. The files that I'm going to be using throughout this course is going to be available at the distance learning system. Let me show you guys exactly where it is. It's at scriptcase.net/AD. So from here, you're going to inform your username and password from the My Scriptcase area. And here you can access all the files, all the SQL, all the codes that we're going to use in this course. Okay? Now, let me introduce myself. At first, my name is Carlos, as I said. I'm going to be your instructor throughout this course. I used to work with the Scriptcase team. Now I'm a contracted instructor, unfortunately. But my experience with Scriptcase goes back, 3 years. So when I started working with Scriptcase, it was Scriptcase 7.1. So I do know a little bit of Scriptcase. I have a great knowledge, my opinion. I think that's it. Okay then, let's start. So, Scriptcase expert course from Scriptcase 9. Actually, we're going to work with Scriptcase 9 throughout this course. And I'd like to do an overview with you with Scriptcase because some of you may already have experience with Scriptcase, but since this is a beginner to intermediate course, so I need to get everybody catched up with the basics of what exactly is Scriptcase, what does it work with, what do you do with Scriptcase. Scriptcase uses some technologies. Basic one is PHP. PHP is a scripting language that runs on servers, actually the most used servers on the world. If you have any hosted environments like Amazon, using AWS, some local shared hosts. So we have the GoDaddy, for example. Some of you may already be familiar with the Scriptcase partner, which is Who, as a HOO.st. They're a great partner with Scriptcase. They offer, in my opinion, the best environment so you can use Scriptcase on a host. And PHP is used in more than 240 million websites. Okay, the latest version in development is PHP 7.1 alpha version, but Scriptcase uses the 7.1 due to stability and capability for past versions. PHP was released in 1994. It has 22 years of age, actually, and it's a simple language. Okay, how does PHP work? Well, for example, we have our browser, which is a client, and it does a request to the web server, which will be your host or your local machine. That same server has PHP installed. Having PHP installed, it's going to run the request, calculate the response, and deliver the response to the client. And Scriptcase also works with HTML5, CSS3, JavaScript, and jQuery. I'm not sure that it uses the latest version of jQuery, but basically most of the applications that you generate with Scriptcase already has jQuery imported in its core functions. Also, if you're planning to use any custom JavaScript, feel free. Scriptcase 9, we have implemented a couple of new applications and upgraded old ones. For example, the control application, we can now personalize it with custom HTML, CSS, and JavaScript codes, and also place your custom PHP rules, so you can basically do a more personalized application than just using the native Scriptcase themes. Okay, so that's one example. How does Scriptcase work? Well, basically we have here a example of a server for development purposes and a production environment for end users purposes. So on the left side we have 1 to various developers working on Scriptcase. That it could be on your local network, which is the intranet, and on a host, which is the internet. And also you're going to have a database connected to your Scriptcase so you can generate the applications based on your database tables. When you're done developing, you're going to deploy your project to the other server, which will be the production server, for your end user clients to use your generated applications. Where does Scriptcase run? Well, basically on browsers. Supports Safari, Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, and Microsoft Edge. Where can you install Scriptcase? You can install it on Windows 7 SP1 using the Scriptcase 9 due to capability of PHP 7. Mac OS, I think the Yosemite, which is a 10.10, and basically any Linux distribution that supports PHP 7 and the source guard extension for PHP. The applications generated from Scriptcase can also run on any platform that you want, basically on a TV, notebook, and mobile device. Repeating, the generated applications, not when you're developing. I wouldn't recommend that. This is another Scriptcase environment example. So on the left side we have our local machine and network, and on the right side we have the online server or host if you prefer. So basically you can have the Scriptcase database and production environments on your local network or machine. You can have the Scriptcase and database on your local environments and the production server using the database on a host. So basically you can just develop locally and deploy it to a host. Not much of a secret there. Basically you can have basically your database and your production environment on a host and access all your database information locally from your Scriptcase, since basically you can connect to any database remotely. So Scriptcase offers that possibility. And the last option is you can have all your environments on a host, as I exemplified using one of our partners from Scriptcase, which is the who.st. Examples on accessing any browsers. You can use your local machine accessing from your local IP to port Scriptcase, or your local network accessing by the IP of your server and the port, or accessing it from the online server, which will be the host. Okay, and this is going to be an explanation of the project that we're going to create. Alright, basically it's going to be an electronic appointment system. So the electronic appointment system has the goal of creating appointments of paid services of a company that provides external services to its customers. The system has three different types of users: admin, staff, and customer. The administrator registers the types of services available in a catalog indicating duration and price of the service. The administrator receives the service requests, confirm an appointment, and selects one of the staff to carry out the customer visit. The customer will conduct the service requests and enter a date and time of his preference. The staff and the customer will receive the confirmation email with the schedule detail. The staff can only view their own agenda and will be able to view a map with the address of the customer to be served on the schedule. The staff should confirm the attendance, check-in, cancel, or request rescheduling. The customer must evaluate the service after confirmation of the attendance by the staff. The staff and administrator will receive an email reporting the action. A history of each schedule will be maintained, informing the user's interactions. This is a database model of the system where you're going to receive an export of the SQL, so you can import it locally to your database. Okay. First thing, we're going to use the MySQL database for this project. So continuing here, we have a BPMN, which basically shows the activities that's going to be done in this system. You can view that in this PowerPoint I'm going to be offering you guys later. And there's the case of use, which shows exactly what each user, actually what each type of user is going to do on this system. Okay? Basically what I'm going to show you guys today, step by step, is creating a new project on Scriptcase. So let's go here, Scriptcase. This is my environment on that host that I just said, who.st. Alright, so let's log in here. Okay, so this is the Scriptcase home environment. Okay, so we have on the top side, we have our menu, which basically we have access to all the important functionalities of our project. So basically we can create a new project from here. We can open a new project from here. We can close a project, access the project properties. We can switch on the default values for creating applications to determine projects and some other options. So basically what I'm going to show you guys step by step is creating a new project here. Okay, so let's go here to create project. We're going to create a blank project. Let's go into next. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here. Let me just explain what I just do. This is all the templates that we have here available for download on our Scriptcase environment. Okay, we have a lot of options to test out. Basically, we can use these projects if you want to your daily basis. It's not actually prohibited for you to use on commercial uses. But in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to use this blank project here, which is going to create a new project from scratch. What we're going to do is I'm going to call this appointments underline en. I'm going to copy the same name here and place it here. Next. And I'm going to add a couple of new languages. Yes, the projects from Scriptcase can be used in multi-language levels. Basically what you need to do is create the translation for the labels later on in the data dictionary. Now let me select here. First I'm going to have English. The next one's going to be French. And the third one's going to be Spanish. Okay. From here you can select the theme that's going to be used by default in your project. So you have here a couple of themes. These are the recommended ones. These one right here from Scriptcase 8. But we're going to use this one, which is the SC9 Rhino. This is for Scriptcase 9 actually. It's the default theme and a recommended theme. So I'm going to use this one to show you guys. And here we have our database connection. I just selected MySQL, alright? But let me just verify here. So let me just access here. Let me create a new user here. So basically, create a new user here in my MySQL. It's going to be this prefix plus this course here. So let me just paste that already here. Okay, so let me create that user. Okay, so you can see I already listed only this database for me, but let me create a new database here. Due to rules on my host, I need to create the databases with this prefix. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this here and call it dual cutting appointments. So let me create that. Oops. Yeah, so basically I need to have permission here to create it, but no problem. I can create it here. Create database. Oops. Let me add that user to this database. And it has full privileges. I know this is not the recommended thing. Some people might be seeing this and saying that I'm an idiot to do this because due to various reasons of security, it's not recommended, but it's just for show actually. Right, so let's go here. I just selected here the database. Let's test the connection. So the connection is success. Alright. Let's create the project. It's informing me that I have different char sets based on my database and the languages that I selected to be on my project. Okay, so what it's asking me, do I want to change the char sets for the selected languages to UTF-8 automatically so it can be compatible with my database? Well, if it's offering me that option, I'm going to accept it. Yes. Okay. Well, now let's create here our first application. It gave this error because I don't have any tables in my database. Okay, so it's not a problem with the connection. It's due to the lack of tables on my database. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do is I need to create the tables. Okay, so let's go here to database here and let's access the database builder. What is this tool actually? Well, it's a tool that's used like a database management system. It kind of acts like the myadmin. So what you do is you just click here on the connection that you want to do, and as you can see there aren't any tables here. Well, let me access here the file. Let me download it here, just a minute. Course list. Right here. Okay. Okay, there's only one thing that I need to do here. That's basically I need to change the tables actually. Let me see if I can force it in like this. Downloads. Let me see if it runs. Okay, it ran. So it kind of imported all the tables with the records that I have. So basically, I created the appointments table with all the records here. I created the appointments history with all the records here. Okay, so I imported everything directly to the database using the database builder, which is a tool that comes with Scriptcase. Okay, so this kind of offers you an internal help without needing third-party programs like myadmin, or if you have Postgres, PG admin, or Navicat, or MySQL Workbench. You can use it directly in here with Scriptcase without any problems. Does it support all the databases? Unfortunately, no. It supports some, like MySQL, Postgres, Oracle, SQL Server not being the ODBC connection. What else? I think DB2 if I'm not mistaken. Well, you can see here that I created everything in its correct place with all the correct types, no problems. Okay, what can I do here? I can run SQL commands like myadmin. For you that are already familiar with the tool, myadmin, this is the closest thing that you get to that tool using the internal Scriptcase options. Alright, the next thing I want to show you guys is the SQL Builder. What is the SQL Builder? The SQL Builder basically is another tool that's used to create select queries based on the tables you choose here from the double select fields. For example, I want to query the appointments table. As you can see here, I have the appointments table. Let me place that there, confirm that. Let's go here to, it's already in fields. These are all the fields that are contained in the appointments table. I can choose, let's say I want the staff, I want the price, discount, total price, and I want the start date, for instance. Let's confirm that. If I go here to run, you'll see that those fields are already here. Basically just go here and run. Simple as that. You'll see all the information here. Of course, it has a paging. Just boost up here the limit. And you have more records to view directly on this page without any problems. Okay? You can also do joins here if you like. For example, I'm going to select the appointments and I'm going to select the staff. Let's confirm that. And here from the fields, I'm going to remove the staff ID. And I'm going to place the staff name. Okay. The appointments, I'm going to call it A. Staff, I'm going to call it S. Let me confirm that. Then basically, just go here to joins. This tab only appears if you select more than one table in the tables tab. Alright, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the appointments table here and staff here. I'm going to say I want an inner type of join. I'm going to add that to the list. Okay, confirm it. And then it's going to ask me, what's the relationship between the appointment and the staff? Well, in the appointment, I have the staff ID, and in the staff, I also have the staff ID. So it's going to make the query, select the information where the staff ID from the appointments and the staff ID from the staff table are equal, as you can see here. It generates for you automatically the query without any problems. Run it. And you'll see here, instead of the staff ID, you're going to see the name for each staff, for each record actually. Okay? The next tool I wanted to show you is the ER diagram. Well, this is a new tool that came out with Scriptcase 9. By the name, you already know what it means, basically. It's the diagram of your entire database, basically. As you can see here, it has a caption. It tells you what is the primary key, what is the foreign key, if the key is null or not, if it's a normal field. It also shows you the cardinality between one table and another. So this helps out a lot in development. Okay, as you can see here, basically most of them. Yes, you can drag the tables here to view exactly how it's built. So this helps a lot with development. Due to those who are in doubt with the cardinality between the tables. Let's say you received a pre-built database, but you don't know exactly how the database is mapped. Well, this tool helps out a lot in that type of issue. For example, I already saw a system that I think it had about, what was it? I think 50 tables. I don't know. It was a lot of tables, actually. I was kind of impressed by the DBA of the company because the guy basically modeled up the database to a point that it kind of became a reference for me. Seriously. It had a lot of tables, but for me to understand the relationship between the tables, I had to use a third-party tool, since by the time I was working at Scriptcase Support, they didn't have Scriptcase 9 yet. So basically, we had to use a third-party tool to see the relationship between the tables. If this existed at that time, this would have helped out a lot, actually. I don't know if exactly from here I can edit a table. No, not exactly. I think that'll be asking a little bit too much of it. But seriously, this, in my opinion, is one of the key tools to have in a development environment. Seriously, this helps a lot, basically. Another thing that I wanted to show you guys was the project tools itself. Basically, if you access here the project, we have all these options here that are now enabled for us to use, which basically, as you can see here, we have the project properties, which kind of allows me to add a new icon so it can be used directly as a reference from Scriptcase. You can personalize the fav icon for the project. Alright. Yes, this goes on deployment also. A lot of people asked me how to change the fav icon in Scriptcase, and previously it was very difficult. Basically, you have to inject the icon manually using JavaScript, and it's very frustrating. This is a new option that came out with Scriptcase 9, and that's a thumbs up for that. You can actually modify the languages that you added up in the project previously. Let's say you forgot a language. You can add it up here. Basically, by selecting it, you can change the language default for the project. You can also delete any languages that you think you won't actually need further on. Here you have the themes, actually. The idea is you can see a small preview of the theme selected here. Okay? We have the default values. What happens if you change any settings here in the default values? Normally, when you create a project, all the application that you create in that specific project follows the rules based on these options here. Why is that? Because this is the basic reference when you create a project or a application. How is that? For example, if you create a grid application, you probably saw that there's a kind of a min limit of amount of records per page, right? For example, we have a paging that contains 10 records per page. I can change that here and say that I want the min value to be 20, for instance. If I change it here and updated it, all the applications that require a paging on a mass load of data is going to use 20 records minimum for the paging. Alright? I can display the line number, show the summary, display the old quick search, use the old chart template palettes. I can also change specific settings for each type of application. Alright, I can change the toolbar settings, I can change the mobile settings, the detail settings, this being the grid option. If I go to form, basically the same thing for the forms. Let me see here. It's most of the options that you see on the left side menu of the application, so there's not really much difference. Just in the results, in fact, that you won't be needing to adjust the settings that you want for every application that you need. detail. When you change any settings here, it doesn't affect any of the applications that you already created. Unfortunately for those, you need to set the settings manually. Alright, this only affects new applications that you're going to be creating. If you want to edit specific information in a mass load of applications, there's another tool called Express Edit, although it doesn't allow all the information that we see here, but some that you can change that are in fact listed here. For example, the themes, the security level of the applications. Those options are not listed here in the default values, but you can change them in a mass load of applications in the Express Edit, for example. Okay. Another thing that I wanted to show you guys that most people actually find it frustrating to do is how you know the basic information of your environment. Scriptcase offers a option that allows you to verify all the necessary information that you need for example, the support team, if you have any questions related. If you go here to Help Diagnosis, you can have access to all that information. Basically, you can have access to the PHP version that you have, the host name. This will be your computer name and in general times. The operating system that your Scriptcase is installed on. The type of web server that you're using, Apache, Nginx, even the normal PHP module, sometimes used. The version of Scriptcase that you're using being the primary version and the release. Down here, you're going to see a list of databases. You're probably wondering why mine only has a couple of ones checked and most of them X's. Alright, what does this mean exactly? It means not all the databases are in fact enabled in my environment. Due to my needs, basically, I only use MySQL, Postgres sometime, and rarely Oracle. But as you see, Oracle is not enabled here. For me to enable that, basically I need to contact my host and ask them to enable that for me. But if you're using Scriptcase on your local machine, you're probably seeing most of those options checked green. Well, basically that shows you what databases you're allowed to connect in your environment. Okay? And basically, down here are the other extensions that are required for Scriptcase to use, which is the zlib and the gd. These are basically the modules that kind of connects the Apache with the PHP module. That's the generator itself. It's what Scriptcase uses to generate the applications in background when you just use the clicks, basically. It shows you the PHP ini path, the Scriptcase write permission, the session write permission, the ZendID permission. The ZendID is normally used to basically authenticate and register your Scriptcase. So if you have any problems on registering your Scriptcase, you probably find the ZendID with an X there, and the ZendID MD5 without the information actually. Okay, so we have the pop-up here, okay, the version of the GD, and we have here the path to Scriptcase installation, alright? If you want a more specified detailed file, basically just click here on the blue link, and it's going to generate for you a more detailed diagnosis, also with the PHP info right below. That kind of shows you all the max and mints information of your account. Okay, so basically from here you can have access to the max execution time, the max file uploads, the max input vars, the memory limits, post max size, and etc. and etc. It's a bunch of things that you can verify here, and some of them can be changed on a shared hosts, but most of them are kind of fixed and not allowed to be changed. But I wouldn't recommend going through all this and changing the settings if you don't know what you're doing. Sometimes changing the settings without actually knowing the knowledge may occur on a fatal error on a server and not allowing you to access Scriptcase nor your applications. Okay, so be very careful with that. Okay guys, basically today's mostly in the introduction part. I'm going to start creating the applications in fact tomorrow. Alright. I just want to know the level of you guys so I can kind of get to know exactly in what speed I'm going to show you guys the step-by-step, alright? Because I see here, most people here I don't know in fact. So I don't really know your level of knowledge with Scriptcase. So if you'd like to share that with me, that'll really help me out throughout the course and kind of speed up things and kind of have more free time for questions and examples. So if you guys want to go through that first, feel free, because today is basically just the introduction. Basically tomorrow's class and Wednesday's class are very basic information. Basically I'm going to show you guys how to create form, grid applications, set them up with custom labels, data dictionary, those type of stuff. If you look in the distance learning system, you'll be viewing the previous class, which is with Scriptcase 8.1 in fact. Okay, so basically the first email that you can contact is courses@scriptcase.net. You can send your questions through there and I'll be checking it later on and respond to your questions as soon as I can, in fact. If you have any questions about sales and stores, you can contact sales@scriptcase.net, or you can send an email to Marsha@scriptcase.net. And also, if you guys want to post any questions directly, you can access the scriptcase.net at ED actually. And you can post your questions there. I can also view them later on and respond them as soon as you can. Well guys, as I said, today is only introduction. I'm going to start basically creating the application tomorrow. So I think that's it for today. Again, welcome to the Scriptcase course, the expert course with Scriptcase 9. Alright, bye guys. Have a nice evening. I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow at the same time, alright?